The winter had settled deep into the heart of New England. It was February 9th, 2004, a Monday, and the kind of night that made you want to stay inside. The air was frigid, biting at any exposed skin, and the wind howled like a hungry wolf. Up in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, the darkness felt especially heavy. It was the kind of darkness that seemed to swallow sound and light, making the world feel isolated and small. On this night, a young woman named Maura Murray was driving along Route 112, a lonely stretch of asphalt that snaked through the mountains. She was alone in her car, a Saturn sedan packed with her belongings. Maura, a 21-year-old nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, was a long way from home. She had left her dorm room a few days earlier, telling her professors that she had a family emergency. But the truth was far more complicated. Maura had been struggling. Her life, once filled with the promise of a bright future, had taken a dark turn. She had recently been involved in a car accident, her second in a short period of time. She was facing disciplinary action at school, and her relationship with her boyfriend was on the rocks. Now she was driving through the night, her destination unknown. Around 7:30 p.m., Maura's car veered off the road and crashed into a snowbank. It wasn't a major accident, but it was enough to leave her shaken and her car undrivable. A passing motorist, a local bus driver named Butch Atwood, stopped to offer help. He saw Maura standing by her car, seemingly unharmed but visibly upset. She told him that she had called AAA and didn't need any assistance. Butch, sensing something wasn't right, drove a short distance to a nearby house and called the police. When the police arrived at the crash site just minutes later, Maura was gone. Her car was locked, and there was no sign of a struggle. The only clue to her whereabouts was a spilled bottle of wine inside the car, a detail that would later fuel speculation and raise more questions than answers. The search for Maura Murray began immediately. Police scoured the area, but the falling snow quickly covered any tracks she might have left. They interviewed locals, hoping someone had seen something, but leads were scarce. As the hours turned into days, the mystery of Maura's disappearance deepened. Where had she gone? Had she run away? Or had something more sinister happened on that lonely mountain road? The disappearance of Maura Murray sent shockwaves through her family and friends. Her parents, Fred and Lori Murray, immediately drove to New Hampshire, desperate for answers. They couldn't believe that their daughter, a bright and responsible young woman, would simply vanish without a trace. They organized search parties, put up missing person posters, and pleaded for anyone with information to come forward. But despite their tireless efforts, Maura remained missing. The police, initially treating the case as a missing person investigation, began to consider the possibility of foul play. Maura's belongings, including her purse and cell phone, were still in her car, suggesting she hadn't planned on going anywhere. And the lack of any credible sightings or leads pointed to something more sinister than a voluntary disappearance. The case of Maura Murray quickly captured the attention of the media. News vans descended upon the small town of Haverhill, New Hampshire, broadcasting updates on the search and interviewing anyone who might have information. The story, with its mix of mystery and tragedy, resonated with the public. People across the country followed the case closely, offering theories and speculating about what could have happened to the missing nursing student. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the mystery of Maura Murray's disappearance only deepened. The lack of answers, the conflicting theories, and the haunting circumstances of her vanishing created a puzzle that seemed impossible to solve. What happened to Maura Murray on that cold February night? It's a question that continues to haunt investigators, amateur sleuths, and anyone who has ever heard her story. Maura Murray, born May 4, 1982, was the picture of youthful promise. Growing up in Hanson, Massachusetts, she was the epitome of a good kid, bright, athletic, and seemingly destined for a life filled with success. She excelled in academics, consistently earning a place on the honor roll, and her natural athleticism shone on the track and field, where she was a star runner. Her bright smile and infectious laugh could light up a room, and she had a knack for making friends wherever she went. Maura's family life was close-knit, with her parents, Fred and Lori, and her siblings providing a strong support system. They shared a love for hiking and camping, often venturing into the wilderness for weekend adventures. These trips fostered a deep appreciation for nature in Maura, a love for the peace and solitude that only the great outdoors could offer. Driven by a desire to help others, Maura set her sights on a career in nursing. She was accepted into the nursing program at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, a testament to her intelligence and dedication. At UMass, she thrived in the challenging academic environment, her passion for medicine growing with each passing semester. She dreamed of a future where she could make a real difference in the lives of her patients, easing their pain and helping them heal. Life seemed full of promise for Maura Murray. She had a loving family, supportive friends, and a bright future ahead of her. She was young, beautiful, and full of life, with the world at her feet. But beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic life, a darkness was beginning to gather, a storm that threatened to engulf the golden girl from Hanson. As Maura progressed through college, the pressure to maintain her perfect image began to take its toll. The demanding nursing program, coupled with her commitment to track and field, left her feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. The once bright spark in her eyes seemed to dim, replaced by a look of worry and exhaustion. She started withdrawing from friends and family, preferring to spend her evenings alone in her dorm room, her thoughts a tangled mess of anxieties and uncertainties. Adding to her burdens was a growing rift in her relationship with her boyfriend, Billy Rausch. They had been dating for several years, their relationship a whirlwind of passion and intensity. But their fiery connection was also prone to explosive arguments and jealous outbursts, leaving Maura feeling emotionally drained. The once unbreakable bond between them began to fray, the weight of their unspoken expectations and resentments becoming too heavy to bear. Maura, used to excelling in all areas of her life, struggled to cope with the turmoil in her relationship. Her usually sunny disposition clouded by doubt and insecurity. The once carefree girl was slowly disappearing, replaced by a young woman grappling with anxieties she didn't fully understand. As the fall of 2003 gave way to the bitter chill of a New England winter, Maura's problems seemed to multiply. She was involved in a minor car accident, the first of two that would plague her in a matter of days. While she escaped without physical injury, the incident shook her deeply, leaving her feeling vulnerable and exposed. To make matters worse, she was caught using a stolen credit card, a lapse in judgment that resulted in disciplinary action from the university. The incident, though minor in the grand scheme of things, felt like a crushing blow to Maura's carefully constructed world. The fear of disappointing her family, of tarnishing her reputation, weighed heavily on her mind, further deepening her sense of isolation and despair. Maura's once bright future, the one she had worked so hard to build, seemed to be crumbling around her. The pressure she had been carrying, the weight of expectations and the fear of failure, threatened to consume her. She was adrift in a sea of uncertainty, desperately searching for a lifeline, a way to navigate the storm that was engulfing her. In the days leading up to her disappearance, Maura's behavior became increasingly erratic. She confided in her boyfriend Billy about her anxieties, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and despair. She hinted at wanting to disappear, to escape the mounting pressures that threatened to suffocate her. Billy, himself struggling with their tumultuous relationship and his own personal demons, offered words of comfort, but deep down, a seed of unease had been planted. Meanwhile, Maura's family remained largely in the dark about the extent of her struggles. She maintained a facade of normalcy during their phone calls, her voice carefully controlled, her words measured. She feared their judgment, the potential disappointment in their eyes. The weight of her secrets, the burden of her unspoken pain, became a heavy cloak, isolating her further from those who loved her most. Unbeknownst to her family and friends, Maura was reaching a breaking point. The once vibrant young woman was now a prisoner in her own mind, trapped in a cycle of anxiety and despair. She desperately sought an escape, a way to outrun the shadows that haunted her every waking moment. On Friday, February 6, 2004, Maura packed her belongings into her car, a silver Saturn sedan. She told her roommates she was going to visit her father in Connecticut, a lie that would later baffle investigators. She withdrew a small amount of cash from an ATM, the image of her face captured on camera, a haunting reminder of the life she was about to leave behind. That evening, Maura drove north, away from the pressures of college, away from the turmoil of her relationship, away from the life that felt like it was closing in on her. She was heading towards the White Mountains of New Hampshire, a place she had visited with her family, a place where the vast wilderness offered a sense of escape, a temporary reprieve from the weight of the world. Little did she know that this journey, this desperate attempt to outrun her demons, would lead her down a path of no return, into the heart of a mystery that would captivate and confound the world for years to come. Route 112, a narrow ribbon of asphalt winding its way through the majestic White Mountains of New Hampshire, was shrouded in an eerie silence on that frigid February night. Snow swirled in the biting wind, obscuring the already faint moonlight and casting long, distorted shadows from the towering pines that lined the roadside. The air was heavy with the threat of more snow, a palpable sense of isolation settling over the landscape. Maura Murray, her silver Saturn sedan battling the slippery road conditions, gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white with tension. The events of the past few days, the mounting pressures, the lies she had told, swirled in her mind, a dizzying kaleidoscope of fear and uncertainty. She had been driving for hours, the rhythmic hum of the engine and the hypnotic dance of snowflakes against the windshield doing little to ease the turmoil that churned within her. As the road curved sharply to the left, Maura, her attention momentarily diverted by a flicker of movement in the rearview mirror, felt the car skid on a patch of black ice. The tires lost their grip on the slick asphalt, and the car, as if possessed by a mind of its own, veered sharply to the right, careening off the road and crashing into a snowbank with a sickening thud. The force of the impact sent a jolt through Maura's body, snapping her back to reality. Dazed and disoriented, she struggled to catch her breath, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. The engine sputtered and died, plunging the car into an unnerving silence, broken only by the relentless howl of the wind. Snowflakes, illuminated by the car's headlights, swirled around the wrecked vehicle, creating a surreal, almost dreamlike atmosphere. Maura, her body aching from the impact, fumbled for the interior light switch, casting a dim glow over the car's interior. The airbag, deployed on impact, hung limply from the steering wheel, filling the air with a faint chemical odor. The windshield was spiderwebbed with cracks, a testament to the force of the collision. On the passenger seat, a bottle of wine purchased earlier that day lay on its side, its contents slowly seeping onto the upholstery. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through Maura's initial shock. She was stranded, alone, in the middle of nowhere, the full weight of her predicament crashing down on her like an avalanche. Her carefully constructed facade of control shattered, leaving her raw and exposed, a frightened young woman facing the consequences of her choices. Outside, the storm raged on, the wind whipping the falling snow into a blinding frenzy. Maura, her breath fogging the frigid air, stepped out of the car, her boots sinking into the deep snowdrifts that lined the roadside. She stumbled towards the back of the car, her gloveless hands instinctively reaching up to shield her face from the biting wind. The taillights cast a crimson glow on the snow, illuminating a set of footprints leading away from the driver's side door. The tracks, small and delicate, disappeared into the dense undergrowth that bordered the woods, their destination unknown. A single glove, its mate nowhere in sight, lay discarded on the ground near the edge of the trees, a silent testament to the frantic moments that followed the crash. Inside the car, Maura's belongings painted a picture of a life interrupted. College textbooks, their pages filled with neatly written notes, lay scattered on the back seat, a reminder of the academic pressures she had been carrying. A crumpled map of New Hampshire, its surface marked with a single circled destination, hinted at a planned escape, a journey cut tragically short. Butch Atwood, a local bus driver making his usual rounds on that desolate stretch of Route 112, spotted Maura's car shortly after the crash. The sight of a vehicle spun off the road, its taillights glowing eerily in the gathering darkness, was not an uncommon occurrence on this treacherous mountain pass, especially on a night like this. He pulled his bus over a safe distance behind the car, his headlights illuminating the scene with a harsh, artificial light. Butch, a burly man with a kind face weathered by years of battling the elements, stepped off the bus and cautiously approached the car, his breath forming white plumes in the frigid air. He saw Maura standing next to her car, her shoulders hunched against the cold, her face partially obscured by the hood of her jacket. She seemed shaken, but unharmed, her voice trembling slightly as she assured him that she had already called for assistance and didn't need any help. Something in her demeanor, a flicker of fear in her eyes, didn't sit right with Butch. He offered to stay with her until help arrived, but she declined politely, insisting that she was fine. Unconvinced but reluctant to overstep, Butch returned to his bus and continued his route, his mind troubled by the encounter, a nagging feeling of unease settling over him. When the police arrived at the crash site just minutes later, alerted by Butch Atwood's call, Maura Murray was gone. Her car, its engine cold, sat locked and undisturbed, a silent sentinel in the swirling snow. Where had Maura gone in those crucial minutes between Butch Atwood's departure and the arrival of the police? Had she wandered off into the unforgiving wilderness, disoriented and desperate? Or had someone, lurking in the shadows of that lonely mountain road, taken advantage of her vulnerability, whisking her away into the night? The open bottle of wine in her car, the spilled contents staining the upholstery, raised more questions than answers. Had she been drinking before the crash, her judgment impaired? Or was the alcohol, purchased earlier that day, simply a forgotten detail, a red herring in a case already riddled with inconsistencies and dead ends? As the snow continued to fall, steadily erasing any trace of Maura Murray's presence, the mystery of her disappearance deepened. The icy grip of the unknown tightened around the hearts of those who knew and loved her, leaving behind a void that no amount of time or investigation could ever hope to fill. The first flakes of dawn falling softly upon the snow-covered landscape brought with them the chilling realization that Maura Murray had vanished. The initial police response, treating the incident as a potential missing person case, quickly escalated into a full-blown search and rescue operation. The unforgiving terrain of the White Mountains, blanketed in a thick layer of freshly fallen snow, transformed the search into a race against time. The initial search area, centered around the site of Maura's abandoned car on Route 112, expanded rapidly as teams of trained professionals, aided by search dogs and aerial surveillance, fanned out into the surrounding wilderness. Every snowdrift, every frozen stream bed, every cluster of snow-laden pines was meticulously examined, the hope of finding even the smallest clue fueling their determination. The bitter cold, the wind chill plummeting far below freezing, added an element of urgency to the search. Hypothermia, a silent killer in these unforgiving conditions, could claim a life within hours, and the thought of Maura, alone and exposed in the wilderness, spurred the searchers on. As the initial search of the immediate area surrounding the crash site yielded no trace of Maura, the investigation shifted its focus to a broader canvas. Investigators conducted door-to-door inquiries in the sparsely populated communities dotting the vast expanse of the White Mountains. Every passing motorist, every resident living within a 100-mile radius became a potential witness. The investigation, hampered by the lack of concrete evidence and the passage of time, began to resemble a massive jigsaw puzzle. Rumors and speculations swirled through the small towns and villages nestled among the mountains, fueled by the media frenzy. Every passing day brought with it a fresh wave of theories, each more outlandish than the last. The local police, their resources stretched thin, sought assistance from state and federal agencies. The case, initially dismissed by some as a simple missing persons report, was quickly evolving into a complex and baffling mystery. News of Maura Murray's disappearance spread like wildfire, fueled by the insatiable appetite of the 24-hour news cycle and amplified by the burgeoning power of the internet. What began as a local news item quickly escalated into a national obsession. Television crews, their satellite trucks and mobile command centers, a jarring contrast to the quiet beauty of the White Mountains, descended upon the region. Maura's story, a tragic tale of a young woman's disappearance, became fodder for speculation and debate. The internet, still in its relative infancy, became a breeding ground for theories and speculation. Online forums dedicated to the case sprung up overnight, their virtual walls plastered with messages of hope, despair, and everything in between. Amateur sleuths, armed with Google Maps and a thirst for the unknown, pored over satellite images of the area, sharing their findings and theories. Despite the growing media frenzy and the increasingly speculative nature of the investigation, Maura Murray's family refused to give up hope. Her parents, Fred and Lori, their faces etched with grief and exhaustion, but their eyes still burning with a fierce determination, became tireless advocates for their daughter. They organized vigils, their candles flickering in the winter night, their prayers for Maura's safe return carried on the wind. They granted countless interviews, their voices hoarse but their message unwavering. They established a website dedicated to finding Maura, its pages filled with photos, memories, and pleas for information. Their strength and resilience inspired countless others to join the search for Maura. Volunteers, their hearts touched by the family's plight, traveled from near and far to assist in the search efforts. The search for Maura Murray became a roller coaster ride of dead ends and tantalizing leads. Every passing season brought with it renewed efforts, new searches, new technologies deployed in the hopes of uncovering the truth. The investigation, hampered by a lack of physical evidence and the passage of time, shifted its focus from a search and rescue operation to a missing persons case, then to a possible homicide investigation. Theories abounded, each one more outlandish than the last. Was Maura a victim of foul play, her disappearance the result of a chance encounter with a predator, or had she simply chosen to vanish? Despite the passage of time, the mystery of Maura Murray's disappearance continues to captivate and confound. The search for answers continues, fueled by the belief that somewhere, hidden amidst the whispers of the wind and the secrets buried beneath the snow, the truth about what happened to Maura Murray awaits its discovery. The theory that Maura Murray orchestrated her own disappearance has been a subject of intense debate and scrutiny. Proponents of this theory point to the circumstances surrounding Maura's final days, painting a picture of a young woman on the verge of a breakdown. Maura's recent car accidents, her disciplinary issues at the university, and the growing rift in her relationship with her boyfriend all pointed to a life spiraling out of control. She had confided in Billy, her voice heavy with despair, about her desire to disappear. Was her disappearance a desperate attempt to hit the reset button, to shed the weight of her problems and start anew? The fact that Maura had packed her belongings, withdrawn cash from an ATM, and left a note for her boyfriend seemed to support the notion of a planned disappearance. Those who believe Maura staged her own disappearance argue that her actions in the hours leading up to her vanishing point to a deliberate attempt to sever ties with her past. They point to her decision to leave her dorm room days before her disappearance, telling her roommates she was visiting her father in Connecticut. Maura's purchase of alcohol and the spilled bottle found in her car after the crash have been interpreted by some as evidence that she was intentionally intoxicating herself. The fact that she refused assistance from the bus driver, Butch Atwood, insisting that she had already called for help, could be seen as a calculated move to avoid drawing attention to herself. Her disappearance becomes a carefully orchestrated act of self-preservation, a desperate gamble to escape the pressures of her life. The allure of disappearing, of shedding one's old skin and starting anew, is a powerful one, and in Maura's case it may have been the only way she saw to break free. Despite the seemingly compelling evidence supporting the theory of a voluntary disappearance, doubts and inconsistencies linger. Skeptics point to the lack of a clear motive, arguing that while Maura was undoubtedly facing challenges in her life, none of them seemed insurmountable enough to warrant such a drastic and permanent solution. Maura's family and close friends have vehemently rejected the notion that she would intentionally vanish. They point to her plans for the future, her dreams of becoming a nurse and making a difference in the world, as evidence that she had every intention of returning home and resuming her life. Furthermore, The lack of any credible sightings of Maura since her disappearance raises questions about her ability to remain hidden for so long. If she did indeed stage her own disappearance, where did she go? How has she managed to evade detection for so many years? The theory that Maura Murray chose to disappear remains a tantalizing possibility. It is a theory that offers a glimmer of hope, however faint, that Maura may still be alive, living a new life under a different identity. However, it is also a theory riddled with holes, unanswered questions, and the nagging suspicion that something more sinister may have befallen Maura Murray. The truth remains elusive, hidden somewhere beneath the layers of speculation, conjecture, and the passage of time. The theory that Maura Murray was abducted has haunted the investigation from its earliest days. It is a chilling scenario, one that plays on our deepest fears. The White Mountains, with their vast, untamed wilderness and sparsely populated communities, have long been a breeding ground for rumors of strange occurrences and unexplained disappearances. Local folklore whispers of shadowy figures glimpsed through the trees, of cars disappearing without a trace on lonely stretches of highway. In Maura's case, the circumstances surrounding her disappearance lend themselves to such speculation. Her car, abandoned on a remote stretch of Route 112, its engine cold, its doors locked, suggested a sudden and unexpected event. The lack of any signs of a struggle, no footprints in the snow leading away from the car, only deepened the mystery, fueling speculation that she had been taken against her will. Despite the chilling implications of the abduction theory, it is not without its flaws. Skeptics point to the lack of a clear motive, arguing that if Maura was indeed targeted by a stranger, there is no obvious reason why she would be chosen as a victim. She had no known enemies, no history of risky behavior, and no valuables in her possession that would make her a target for robbery. Furthermore, the lack of any credible witnesses, anyone who saw suspicious vehicles or individuals in the vicinity of Maura's car around the time of her disappearance, weakens the abduction theory. While it is possible that someone could have abducted her without being seen, it seems improbable given the time of day, the weather conditions, and the relative lack of traffic on that stretch of road. The investigation, hampered by a lack of concrete evidence and the passage of time, has explored numerous leads and potential suspects over the years, but none have panned out. Some theories have focused on the possibility of Maura being abducted by a transient individual, someone passing through the area who saw an opportunity to exploit her vulnerability. Others have explored the possibility of a local connection, someone familiar with the area and Maura's routine who may have been stalking her or had a personal vendetta against her. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the abduction theory continues to hold a powerful grip on the imagination fueled by the sheer mystery surrounding Maura's disappearance, and the enduring possibility that someone, somewhere, knows what happened to her on that cold February night. Over the years, several individuals have been identified as potential persons of interest in the case, their connections to Maura or their presence in the area around the time of her disappearance, raising questions that have yet to be definitively answered. Some of these individuals have criminal histories, their past transgressions fueling speculation that they may have been involved in Maura's disappearance. Others have provided conflicting accounts of their whereabouts or have refused to cooperate with investigators, their silence only deepening the mystery. The possibility that Maura Murray was abducted, her disappearance the result of a random act of violence or a carefully planned crime, remains a haunting and unsettling possibility. It is a scenario that underscores the vulnerability we all face in a world where danger can lurk in the most unexpected places, where even the most ordinary of days can take a sudden and tragic turn. The search for Maura Murray, a relentless pursuit of truth and justice that has spanned nearly 2 decades, continues to this day. Her family, their hearts broken but their spirits unbroken, have never given up hope of finding her. Their tireless efforts a testament to the enduring power of love and the unwavering belief that even the most baffling mysteries can be solved. Investigators, though hampered by the passage of time and the lack of physical evidence, remain committed to bringing closure to Maura's case. They continue to follow up on leads, re-examine old evidence, and explore new technologies in the hopes of uncovering the truth about what happened to her on that fateful night. The mystery of Maura Murray's disappearance serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of life, the randomness of fate, and the enduring power of hope in the face of adversity. It is a story that continues to captivate and confound, its unanswered questions echoing through the years, a testament to the enduring human need to make sense of the senseless and to find solace in the belief that even in the darkest of times, the truth has a way of revealing itself, however slowly and painfully, one piece at a time. The White Mountains, a place of rugged beauty and unforgiving nature, loom large in the mystery of Maura Murray's disappearance. The theory that she succumbed to the elements, lost and alone in the vast frozen wilderness, has been a persistent one, fueled by the unforgiving nature of the environment, and the lack of any concrete evidence pointing to other explanations. The February night Maura vanished was bitterly cold, the temperature plummeting well below freezing. A storm was raging, blanketing the area in a thick layer of snow, making navigation treacherous even for experienced outdoorsmen. The wind howled through the trees, its icy breath numbing exposed skin within minutes. Disorientation and hypothermia could set in quickly under such conditions, making it all too easy for someone to lose their way, their bodies succumbing to the cold before help could arrive. Maura, dressed for a drive rather than a trek through a blizzard, would have been ill-prepared for the elements. Her lack of proper clothing combined with the rapidly dropping temperatures and the disorienting effects of the storm could have quickly led to a life-threatening situation. Even a short distance from the road, hidden from view by the swirling snow and the dense undergrowth, she could have succumbed to the cold, her body slowly disappearing beneath the accumulating snowdrifts. Those who subscribe to the exposure theory point to Maura's state of mind in the hours leading up to her disappearance as a contributing factor in her potential demise. She was emotionally distraught, struggling with a myriad of personal problems, and possibly under the influence of alcohol. These factors, combined with the shock of the car accident and the disorienting effects of the storm, could have led to a series of poor decisions, a cascade of events that ended tragically. Did Maura, disoriented and seeking shelter from the storm, wander away from the road, perhaps following a stream bed or a game trail that led her deeper into the woods? Did she become lost in the blinding snow, her sense of direction compromised by the cold and her own confused state of mind? Or did she, in a moment of despair, simply give up, succumbing to the cold and the overwhelming sense of hopelessness that seemed to surround her? The lack of any footprints leading away from her car, apart from the few steps she took towards the back of the vehicle, has been cited as evidence against the exposure theory. However, the heavy snowfall that night, combined with the potential for wind and animal activity to obscure any tracks, makes it possible that any trace of Maura's movements was quickly erased, her final journey hidden from view beneath a shroud of white. The vastness of the White Mountains, their dense forests and rugged terrain, adds a layer of complexity to the exposure theory. Despite extensive searches conducted by ground teams, dog units, and aerial surveillance, no trace of Maura's body has ever been found. This lack of physical evidence, while frustrating for investigators and agonizing for her family, is not entirely surprising given the challenges of searching such a vast and unforgiving environment. The White Mountains are home to a variety of wildlife, including scavengers that could have scattered or consumed any remains, leaving no trace for searchers to find. The harsh winters with their cycles of freezing and thawing could have further degraded any evidence, scattering bones and personal belongings over a wide area, making them all but impossible to locate. The exposure theory, while offering a plausible explanation for Maura's disappearance, is a particularly difficult one to accept. It paints a picture of a young woman lost and alone in the wilderness, her final moments marked by fear, confusion, and the numbing cold of a winter storm. It is a scenario that offers little in the way of closure, no answers to the questions that continue to haunt those who knew and loved her. The silence of the White Mountains, their vastness swallowing sound as easily as it conceals secrets, only adds to the mystery of Maura Murray's fate. Did she find her final resting place amidst the towering pines and snow-covered peaks, her story becoming one with the countless tales of lives lost and mysteries unsolved that cling to this rugged landscape? The exposure theory, while a plausible explanation, remains just that, a theory. Without the discovery of Maura's remains, without concrete evidence to support this scenario, it remains a haunting possibility, one that underscores the power of nature's indifference and the fragility of human life, especially when faced with the unforgiving forces of the wilderness. The theory that Maura Murray met with foul play at the hands of someone she knew, someone lurking within the familiar circles of her life, is a chilling and complex one. It casts a dark shadow over the relationships that intertwined with her own, suggesting that the key to her disappearance might lie not in the anonymity of a stranger, but in the hidden resentments, jealousies, or even darker impulses that can fester beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. Maura, like all of us, moved through the world surrounded by a network of relationships, family, friends, classmates, acquaintances. Each connection, however fleeting or profound, represented a potential source of conflict, a breeding ground for unspoken resentments, jealousies, or even darker impulses that could, under the right or wrong circumstances, escalate into violence. The investigation into Maura's disappearance, while initially focused on the possibility of a random act or a stranger abduction, has, over the years, circled back to the possibility that someone within Maura's own social sphere might have played a role in her vanishing. This line of inquiry, often fraught with emotional landmines and ethical dilemmas, delves into the intimate details of Maura's relationships, seeking clues in the whispers and rumors, the half-truths and outright deceptions that often color the narratives we construct around our lives. The possibility that someone Maura knew might have been involved in her disappearance raises a host of unsettling questions. Were there any individuals in her life who harbored a grudge against her, their resentment simmering beneath the surface of normalcy, waiting for an opportunity to boil over into something more sinister? Had she confided in anyone about her plans to leave Amherst, to escape the pressures of her life, only to have that trust betrayed, her vulnerability exploited by someone with a more sinister agenda? The investigation has explored these questions, scrutinizing phone records, emails, and personal journals for any hint of a relationship gone sour, any indication that Maura might have been entangled in a situation that posed a threat to her safety. The timing of Maura's disappearance, coinciding with her plans to leave Amherst and potentially start a new life, adds another layer of complexity to this theory. Had she shared her intentions with someone who saw an opportunity to take advantage of her vulnerability? Someone who might have used her desire for a fresh start as a way to manipulate or control her? The investigation has, over the years, focused on several individuals within Maura's social circle, their connections to her, their behavior in the aftermath of her disappearance, or their conflicting accounts of events raising red flags that have yet to be definitively resolved. Some of these individuals were close to Maura, friends who shared her secrets, classmates who witnessed her struggles, acquaintances who crossed her path in the days leading up to her vanishing. Others were connected to her through more tangential threads. Boyfriends of friends, neighbors who might have observed her routines, individuals who crossed her path in the days leading up to her disappearance, their presence noted only in retrospect, their motives shrouded in uncertainty. The scrutiny that comes with being considered a person of interest in a high-profile missing person case can be intense, often casting a long shadow over the lives of those caught within its glare. Reputations can be tarnished, relationships strained, and lives upended, even in the absence of concrete evidence or formal charges. The theory that someone Maura Murray knew might have been involved in her disappearance is a heavy one, fraught with emotional weight and ethical considerations. It is a theory that, if true, would shatter the illusion of safety and trust that we often associate with our closest relationships, reminding us that darkness can lurk in the most unexpected places, even within the hearts of those we believe we know best. However, it is also a theory that must be approached with caution, lest speculation and conjecture eclipse the pursuit of truth and justice. The presumption of innocence, a cornerstone of our legal system, must be extended to all individuals, regardless of their proximity to the victim or the circumstances surrounding their involvement in the case. The search for Maura Murray, a pursuit of answers that has spanned nearly 2 decades, continues, fueled by the unwavering belief that somewhere, amidst the tangled web of relationships, the whispers of secrets and the passage of time, the truth about her disappearance awaits its discovery. The White Mountains, steadfast and silent, hold the answers to Maura Murray's disappearance. They stand as enduring sentinels, their snow-laden peaks and dense forests whispering tales of lives lived, lost, and forever shrouded in mystery. The years have marched on, seasons turning in their relentless cycle, yet the silence surrounding Maura's fate remains unbroken, a haunting echo in the vastness of the wilderness. The search for Maura has taken many forms, from the frantic initial efforts, boots crunching through snowdrifts and voices calling her name into the frigid air, to the quieter, more methodical investigations that followed. The case has been dissected and analyzed, scrutinized through the lens of forensic science, criminal profiling, and the insatiable curiosity of armchair detectives worldwide. Yet, despite the passage of time and the countless hours poured into unraveling the truth, the heart of the mystery remains elusive, a puzzle box with missing pieces, a story with chapters yet unwritten. Through the years, Maura's story has transcended the confines of a missing persons case, evolving into a modern-day folklore, a cautionary tale whispered around campfires and debated in online forums. It has become a testament to the enduring power of hope, the relentless pursuit of justice, and the agonizing uncertainty that lingers when a loved one vanishes without a trace. Theories about Maura's fate abound, each one a thread woven into the complex tapestry of her disappearance. Some theories, grounded in the logical analysis of evidence and circumstance, offer plausible explanations, while others, fueled by speculation and the human tendency to seek meaning in the inexplicable, venture into the realm of the improbable, if not the impossible. Did Maura, burdened by the weight of her personal struggles, choose to vanish, orchestrating her own disappearance to escape the pressures of her life? Did she succumb to the elements? Her journey to a fresh start cut tragically short by the unforgiving cold of a New Hampshire winter? Or was she the victim of foul play, her fate intertwined with the malicious intent of a stranger encountered on a lonely road, or, more chillingly, someone lurking within the familiar circles of her life? Each theory, regardless of its plausibility, carries with it a degree of heartbreak. The possibility that Maura chose to disappear leaves a void of unanswered questions, a lingering sense of betrayal for those who loved her most. The thought of her succumbing to the elements, her final moments marked by fear and isolation, is a chilling reminder of nature's indifference to human suffering. And the suggestion that she met with foul play, her life stolen away by the cruelty of another, stirs a primal fear, a stark reminder of the vulnerability we all share. The mystery of Maura Murray's disappearance is a haunting reminder that some stories, no matter how diligently we seek their endings, remain unfinished. There are no easy answers, no satisfying conclusions to neatly tie up the loose ends of this enduring enigma. The questions that have lingered for years: what happened to Maura? Where did she go? Who, if anyone, knows the truth of her fate? These questions continue to reverberate, their answers elusive, perhaps forever out of reach. Yet, even in the absence of definitive answers, the search for Maura Murray has not been in vain. It has shone a light on the plight of missing persons and their families, highlighting the agonizing uncertainty, the relentless hope, and the unwavering love that fuel their tireless pursuit of truth and justice. It has sparked conversations about personal safety, the importance of community, and the enduring power of human connection, even in the face of unimaginable loss. The search for Maura Murray may never definitively reveal the truth of her fate, but it serves as a powerful reminder that every life has value, every disappearance leaves a ripple effect, and every story, even those left unfinished, deserves to be told, remembered, and honored.